What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by Brooks Running. Kara, I've been watching a lot of YouTube. There's this photographer named Peter McKinnon, and he does all his intros like that. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm going to try it out.
That
What do you
was
think?
great. Good job.
What's up, everybody? It's a little aggressive, but it felt right. It felt right.
It's great. It put me in a good mood. Let's do this.
Good. Necessary. We had a pre-show. We vented a little bit. We've let some steam off. We're ready for a good show.
We're ready for a good show. We want people to enjoy it. We heard a lot of comments of people yelling out loud while they were listening to the last podcast. So we want this to be a little bit more fun.
I like emotions. I think like when you listen to sports talk radio, if you listen to sports talk radio, like that's sort of the whole goal of the hosts is to kind of get you pissed off so that you call in and then they let you say your piece and then they hang up on you and you're like, yeah, this is why you're wrong. And you never get to like come back and
Rebuttal.
like, argue with them. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we did a good job. I feel like a lot of the comments, I don't know. We needed a pause. We were texting back and forth quite a bit, and it's just like, you know what? Deep breath. Let's just talk about life in general in this next episode.
Yeah, let's talk about life in general. Let's talk about you. How is the training going? How are you feeling?
It's coming along. My toenail is looking pretty terrible, but it feels better. I think everything is ironing out. I've had like right hip pain, left Achilles pain, and it's like slowly ironing out. So I feel like that's a good sign.
So
I did a
which
workout.
started first, the Achilles or the hip?
It was like same time. Like
Okay. So
yeah,
did you go get adjusted or anything?
No. I did some foam rolling. I thought about it a lot. I took my time warming up in the early miles. We live in Charlevoix. There's like population, I don't know, 4,000. I have no idea. It's very small. There's not somebody here that I'm like, I trust you. I'm sure there's great people here. I just haven't done the research.
Okay, if anyone lives there and you know who Des could see for either like chiropractic work or ART therapy or even just like a good deep tissue massage, will you hit us up in the comments because this kills me that you don't see someone. I feel like you're leaving so much time on the table, but I just feel like your body would feel so much better.
I know. Well, the problem is what I do is I'll fly to Phoenix for like a week and be like, John, just go to town. And he'll go like, 4 hours in the morning, 6 hours in the evening. And you're like, just beat up. And then you're like, I hate this. Like, I'm never getting body work until I have to. And then I do it again. So it's like in bulk. It's the Costco of body work.
Yeah. But you know that the real thing about Costco is you buy it all and then you have it and you use it slowly.
I just like to buy it and put it in a closet.
Body work. And you did it slowly and oftenly. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but so you had this little hip and Achilles, but it's doing better.
Yeah, I think it's on the mend, and I feel like I've smoothed out. I had a good workout yesterday. Did 4-3-2. I've been messaging with Alphine quite a bit because she had a really rocky start. So I'm like, yo, where you at? Are you going to make it? How's it going? And she's like, I don't know. And then she'll send me a workout and be like, okay, it's kind of coming together. So I sent her mine yesterday and she was like, yes, like we got a shot.
That's so cute.
So I think she's like a notorious sandbagger though. Like she will say that and then she'll like finish top 5. So I don't believe any of it, but I do. It's helping me. So thank you, Alphine. It's been fun. Yeah, we're gonna have a training camp together, her and I, in December in Santa Fe.
Cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
We do some old people miles.
I can hear the creaking from here already of you and Alphine running together.
She'll be all smooth. It's all me. Yeah, but it's been good. And you know what? I did try out. Let me grab them. I tried out these
bad boys,
chunky boys. The Glycerin Max. I like them. They're
a lot of shoe for you.
It's a lot of shoe. It's it's an interesting experience. Second run, like that's the hardest thing right now is like after you grind through the first run in the morning and you're like, most of that felt bad. It's really hard to go for that second one. So these have been fun. I'm like, oh, these are just a really fun experience. I'll go do a second run so I can try these out. And that's been enough recently to get me out the door. So that's good. But I do feel like it's so much shoe, these Maxes, Glycerin Max, that and this isn't available for everybody. I get it. We don't all have like a shoe arsenal, but I find myself wanting to wear these Hyperions. They're just a regular Hyperion. It was the Tempo. They're like one of the slimmer shoes out there right now, and I like running these like kind of to balance it out because I feel like my feet need to experience the ground,
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know.
Yeah.
So that's been in the rotation, and those are both great Brooks products. The Hyperion stuff's fantastic, and Glycerin Max should be coming out very soon,
Yeah, I
like
think it right
officially
like,
right now,
actually, I think it might
today.
be out today.
Ooh, well, go get your Glycerin Max for an enjoyable, bouncy, poppy. I don't know. They're just crazy. They feel good.
Yeah, it's a different experience, you're right, like, it's not when I like I said before, when I put them on, I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be like Squish City," but it's not. It's,
Yeah,
like, soft, but also with pop, but it is a wide platform, so it is a lot of shoe, but I
that's
like
fair.
it, yeah.
Um, how is your hip doing? Hip, how are we doing? Speaking of hips, are you getting body work? Tell me more.
Yeah, so I have had this chronic hip thing for years. I mean, like, basically since Colt was born, and I've just learned to manage it, and I had an MRI on it years ago in, like, 2018, hoping there would be something wrong with it, and they were like, "Well, your right hip has a torn labrum, but your left hip just has tendinopathy, and my left hip is the one that hurts all the time."
Of
I was like,
course.
"Well, that's not helpful." Yeah. So, anyway, I just, I've never wanted to get PRP because you have to take time off, and then just finally a few weeks ago, I was like, "What am I doing?" Like, I have to take time off, like, and I'm not
This is
training for shit, you know?
pretty good time for it.
So, yeah. So I finally went in and had PRP on Tuesday, and it's really sore. It's you know what's funny is, like, I love my doctor. She gets me. She's like, "Look, you probably shouldn't run for a week or 2, and you probably should rest, but I know
I know
you.
you're going to.
So please just take a few days off and then come back really slowly and use your lever and stuff like that." But whenever I hear like, "Oh, most people like need to take 3 weeks off or whatever," what I hear is the most people part, and I'm like, "Well, that's not me." So I will say
Because you're elitist.
yeah, because yep, that's right. Thank you for letting me know, people. I am an elitist. And so I hear like, "Oh, that's what happens for most people." And when I was leaving the office, she's like, "Hey, if you're in a lot of pain, like I do often prescribe an opioid for just 1 or 2 days so people can sleep." And I was like, "I'll be fine." Oh my
You should
God.
take that thing.
Tuesday night, I was like, I should have taken it. It's much more sore than I thought it was gonna be. Um, I took the dogs for a 2-mile walk on Wednesday, and it took us an hour, and they were both, like, looking at me like,
Come
"For
on.
real?" Yeah. Yeah. But I'm making progress. I took them for a 2-mile walk before we recorded. It only took 40 minutes, so making
You're on your
progress.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, excited. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to really kick in, so I just hope it gives me some relief. It's just like I said, it's been a chronic thing for well over a decade, so hopefully this gives me a little relief. And I mean, yeah, I was just like, "Why am I not doing this?" Like,
This is available for me.
this is available, and it just means I have to take some time down, and why am I worried about that? Like, I'm not I'm not prepping for New York. Those days for me are over.
Can you explain PRP for the people? I just want to get your feelings on this in general, but first explain it and tell everyone what like that process is.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert, but basically I just went in there and I couldn't eat. And then before I did my last like real run for a while, and they took out so much blood. I was actually a little bit surprised of how much blood it was. She's like, the nurse asked me if I was nervous about blood being taken. I'm like, no, all the years of drug testing and stuff. And then she's like, "Well, I'm gonna have you lie down just in case." And then I was glad because it was so much more than I thought it was gonna
Bags.
be. Yeah. I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that would have gotten old." But then they spin it down and they get the good stuff out of it. I don't even know technically what the good stuff is. Do you?
No, I thought it was more like to create more red blood cells, like almost like a. This is where I have questions because isn't it sort of like
It's supposed to
blood
make you
doping?
well, so yeah, so they spin it down until it's like this little serum of your blood, and then they inject it into the area. And the goal is like you can't take any anti-inflammatories because the goal is to cause inflammation and to
Mhm.
cause your body to go there and heal. And yes, to have this rush of red blood cells that goes in there and heals it. So it's interesting because I've heard that too. I've heard that certain groups do PRP in the off season and sometimes during the in season as a performance enhancer. I don't know enough about it to
Yeah.
know if that's true or not. All I know is that they took a bunch of blood, spun it down, and took this big needle and just jammed it into my hip joint and let it go. That's what I
Presto,
know.
bravo, new hip, no more
Yeah.
pain, enhanced.
You didn't used to be able to do PRP, I don't think, without like a TUE back in the
Yeah,
day. But now you can, I'm pretty sure.
it's a fascinating process. I mean, like when I guess without knowing much about it, like you're saying, my understanding is basically the same as yours. But you're like, isn't that microdosing?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, if it's super targeted and you have this like area that is hurt, like also when are you allowed to get healthy? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm treating a real problem for so there's just all these lines in doping that I think are fascinating. But PRP is an interesting process and I think it's great for folks and seems to help,
I haven't thought
right?
about that in so long, but I do believe that you didn't used to be able to do it without like a therapeutic use exemption. So that is interesting. There is obviously some performance benefit, right? Because otherwise
Yeah. You're
you would have been able to
feeling
do it forever and it wouldn't be a big deal.
right.
Um yeah, all I know is that it doesn't feel good.
It'd be a brutal process to cheat, right?
Yeah.
Take some time off.
But hey, people will do crazier things. So,
That's true.
yeah.
Um, what else is new? Anything else going on? Anything coming up? We have Chicago coming up.
Yeah, just travel, right? I mean, like we're headed to Chicago to do a live show. Then I'm being inducted into the Croatian American Sports Hall of Fame in Pittsburgh
Wow,
at the end of the month.
that's quite the blend. How did that come up? How did this happen? Explain. I need
Okay.
more info. Sorry,
So,
what?
so for those that don't know, my father was a Croatian immigrant. He immigrated from Croatia when he was 13, following his dad, who came over 8 years earlier. And this is just like a thing. I'm half Croatian. It's not like my dad died when I was little, so I don't know a ton about the culture. I've been to Croatia a couple times. My dad's sister lives in New York City, so every time I go there to race or to do anything work-wise, we hang out. Obviously, she speaks fluent Croatian. She taught Colt a little bit when he was younger, but it's kind of like this part of my life that I don't know that well, right?
Hmm.
So I started getting these emails earlier this year of people trying to find me from this organization, and it's just wild, right? Like there's this whole group of Croatian American people, and they have a sports hall of fame. And so yeah, there's a bunch of people being inducted. I think there's 11 or 12 of us. I am the only woman, and I'm going with my aunt. She's
Nice.
going to go with me. And Friday night, there's like a traditional Croatian dinner with music, and everyone's probably going to be talking to me in Croatian. I'm just going to sit there like an idiot because I don't speak Croatian.
Smile, nod, thumbs up.
I'll just be like, "Yay, she'll be my translator." And then, yeah, the next night is the induction. So it's kind of cool. It'll be kind of fun to like experience more of that side of me, which again, I am really uneducated on. But
It's
it'll
a
be
good way
fun.
to go learn. I
Yeah,
mean, just throw yourself into it. That's pretty cool. And you said Philly?
it's actually in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Got it.
Yeah. Which I thought it was in Philly, and I went to book tickets,
Oh,
and then I was
good thing you
like,
checked.
yeah, I checked just to make sure I had the dates right, and I was like, "Oh, I have the dates right. I have the city wrong."
Whoops.
So,
I'm
yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have that, and then
Easy mistake.
obviously then New York. So,
Yeah.
what about you? Do you have any other travel besides Chicago?
I don't think so. I have Chicago. I think, look, this is an exciting time. Sports are popping off. There's marathons happening. There's NFL going. There's Major League Baseball playoff season is here. It's arrived. I've got two teams in. We got the Tigers, who are like, I mean, they're not supposed to be there. It's such a fun
Right.
story. Their, budget for their team is like one player in these big teams. So they're really underdog story, super fun. And then the Padres. So I know I should get body work. I know I should be doing strength work. I know I shouldn't travel to a playoff game right before New York. But sometimes if lightning strikes, I might have to travel to a playoff game because, these things they don't happen often. And my dream scenario, which is worse for my racing, is a repeat of '84 World Series. It's Tigers, it's Padres, but this time the Padres win. And look, I had a lot of people say, no, the Tigers are going to win. Screw you. And it would be fine. I would be okay with that. I'm just saying, dream scenario, I would like the Padres to win because the Tigers have already won one. Give the Padres something.
Oh, wow. That feels like a
So,
conversation we had last time.
right, exactly. You don't get to play anymore in the World Series because you've already won one. Stop. New team in the league.
Can I tell you
But
something? I love your passion over baseball. It blows my mind. I know nothing about baseball. This is my knowledge of baseball. Kirby Puckett, Minnesota Twins back in the 80s.
wow.
Okay,
But it's
that's
like
all
that
I
was like
know.
good old days where you're like, we had that player that we loved. I don't
Yeah.
really follow it as closely as I should. Like playoff season rolls around and like I get way more into it because you're like, okay, it's meaningful. But the season's so long. I do love going to games and I keep up with the Padres, but when you hang out with big baseball nerds, you're like, I don't care that much. Like, I don't need to manage a team. Like, I'm not going to influence what's happening. So I like to keep an outside view of it. But now it's serious, and if Tigers Padres happens,
You have to
I
be
might
there.
have to go.
You
I
have to be
might
there.
have to go.
I think
So
that's acceptable. Look,
right.
you have a
Sorry,
full
Sam
life.
Gertwald.
Yeah. Sorry, New Yorker runners. You have a full
Yeah,
life, right?
I
You
try.
have
I
things
try.
outside of running. Running shouldn't be everything. So just keep the travel light,
Yeah.
in and out just for the game.
Right.
I
Easy.
think that's fair.
Easy. Okay. So nothing planned yet, but then that could happen. And you know what I do have after New York that I'm really excited about is a trip to New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah. It's with the same group that went to Japan last year is going to New Zealand. We're going to find some trails, do some fishing.
That
So
is so cool. When are you
that's
going to be
hanging out there.
there?
Late November, early December.
That's
But I'll pack
cool.
the kit. I'll bring the podcast kit. The show can go on. The show can go on.
While you're in New Zealand, so I have my old cross country team. I think I've mentioned this before. We get together once a year, and it's so fun. My high school team. It's so fun. Not even we don't even all run anymore, whatever. And we kind of like go around and try to go somewhere warm because we all live in like Colorado, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, something like that. Anyway, we're going to my cabin this year in late November.
Oh. Bring your jackets.
Everybody, yeah.
Whatever, that's fun.
Bring your jackets, bring your puffers. It is not going to be like New Zealand.
Yeah. That's whiskey sipping season, Like we had a really great thread going with Chris last night and I was like, I hope everyone's okay on this call today because it was like Chris was being hilarious. He was sending some weird shit. I was like, what's happening? And then it's like
But wait, where were you, by the way?
I was sitting in front of the TV. I was just at home having a bourbon.
Wait, well, but what was on your Instagram then? You were like at a fancy place.
Oh, that was like a really old photo. Karen Locke had posted it. She just like goes into the vault sometime. You can tell because I look really young. Like if you actually looked at it, you're like, wow, that's like 15 years ago. But yeah, that place is like cool. I would love to be back. It's in New York, so I don't know. Maybe I will go back there.
Okay, so you were sipping whiskey. Chris was drinking margs or something.
Yeah, skinny
Yeah.
margs, extra tequila.
Yeah. And my husband doesn't really drink anymore. He will on very rare occasions, but so I don't drink as much as I used to because you just like I'm that person. But last night I made one of my favorite dinners and I really wanted to have a glass of white wine with it. So I felt like I was in on it, even though Chris was like, whatever, we know you don't drink that much anymore. I was like, no, I really did. I had wine
You took
tonight.
the photo and poured it down the drain. I know it.
I was like,
Don't waste that.
I'm in. Don't kick me out, you guys.
No, I think that's great. A lot of people are doing sober October, which is not for me, but that's great.
Yeah, good for everyone else. I think that's great. But I think like that's not a topic I ever want to discuss because talk about opinions on alcohol. It is like
Oh,
it's a lightning rod. So I
really? I didn't know
oh
that.
yeah, yes. So
Okay. Well, I
but
won't
I
even.
I do enjoy alcohol here and there. I don't judge people who don't, and I don't judge people who do more than me. I feel like it's your life. As long as you're drinking responsibly, it's not really my business.
Yeah, I fully support all of that. I will say I noticed when you were talking about the PRP, you said you passed in the opioid, and I was like, bravo.
No, but I regretted it
No,
later.
no, but I think that that's a hot topic where like the
Yeah.
degree of how addictive that is, where you're like, I don't know, I just went in for this one thing, and then
Yeah.
like, like I would be like, hey, Kara, just like let's get you some gummies, CBD, THC, whatever, like because they're not addictive, and like I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I'm telling you to do that. I'm just saying I would try any alternative, and I get there's probably crazy pain killing. That's the point, right? Where
Yeah.
THC maybe not so much. Um, but yeah, that to me is pretty wild how prescribed they are.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Truth.
big
Truth.
tangent
Colt
there.
Colt was on those during, he was on Oxy when he was in the hospital, and I was worried about that. Like, it was
Hmm.
monitored, like, a different person came in to give it to him, and it was like, he couldn't have it within a certain time, and then they sent us home with, I wanna say 2 or 3 pills, and I was like, "Oh," like, I was nervous just because you hear about this all the time. I know someone that was on a lot of medications after having surgery and then actually went through depression and withdrawal, even though they were taking it as prescribed, and so I was like, "Oh my god, is my, like, little pure child gonna have withdrawals?" But he never asked for it. So that's the other thing is I could have taken his,
Did you put
but
him
I
up
was like
high,
I was like, "It wasn't
top
prescribed for
shelf,
me." Yeah, I actually don't even know where they are. Adam took them, so I guess I
all
could
at
have taken
once? No,
his,
I'm just
but
kidding.
I but I was like, "It wasn't prescribed for me, I can't take
Yeah,
that."
good for you.
Anyway, yeah, no,
I'm scared.
I just that stuff is hardcore. There's use for it, but yeah, I appreciate your take on that. It's overly done, I think, a lot.
Just curious. There's a lot of movies out there. Okay, this is the last catch up thing because this is probably the longest one we've ever done, but I feel like we needed it.
Okay.
There's been a couple jabs here and there. There's still some tension with Boston. Like we're like, what was the show? What was it? The Perfect Couple?
Yeah, did you watch
Is
it?
I watched it.
Okay.
I,
What did you think?
this is the same thing. I've had this problem with a couple of shows. Like I hated every character. I
Oh, yeah.
was interested. I was like, "What's going to happen? Who was it?" But all the people just sucked. And by the end, I was like, "Honestly, I don't really care. They're all should be in jail."
I'll agree with you, they all sucked, and the daughter who was the fiancé, um, I liked her for a really long time, and then she did the thing with the friend, and I was like, "Why would you do
What was
that?"
the
Like, the
point?
one character that we were rooting for that we liked, now I don't like her.
Right.
Why would you
Everyone, I was like, "Meh, whatever. Burn it down. Send them all. Put them all in jail."
Yeah. No, I mean, that's like a brain candy show, but yeah, they all sucked.
I liked the when the dad showed up and got like wasted and did the karaoke because I like that
That
song.
scene,
And
like,
then I had
kept
it in my head for a while.
that scene, like, kept going on. I'm like, "How is no one
Oh, it
shutting
was
this
so
down?"
uncomfortable.
Like, this is going bad. How is no one jumping up and just shutting this down? But he just
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
going and they kept watching like, and yeah, that was very
The
uncomfortable.
PR people are like, all the content,
Phones up, yeah.
all the content. That's
Okay, well,
funny.
good job. Good job watching it.
Yeah, it was entertaining. Um, and then now we got baseball, so we're good. Life moves on. All right. Well, we do have, I guess, running stuff to talk about. Where do you
Yeah.
want to start? You want to? We talked about a few things before, and I feel like. Do you want to go right into a controversy?
Yeah, let's just get it over with.
Rip the band-aid off. Are we going to talk about Camille Herron
Yeah, I mean, we've had a
and
lot of people ask about Camille
the
Harris.
wiki scandal?
And so I think we need to talk about it. And specifically, a lot of people have asked about because your name was brought up in the first article that came out, right? So was it Canadian Running Magazine or something did the very first article,
Yeah.
um, and your name came up. So a lot of people are like, I
Ah.
don't want you guys to be gossipy, but can you be gossipy and tell us about this?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a few things to dance around. Like Sarah Lorge did an article and she reached out. She was like, "Hey, do you want to comment? What are your feelings on this?" And I was like, I don't know that I have a ton to say, so it feels a little bit disingenuous to come on here and say a bunch. A little backstory I'll give you, and then I'll just tell you why I don't really want to go that deep into it. Backstory is when I was doing my 50K record attempt, we were trying to get all the rules hashed out with whatever the it's MUT or ultra governing body is. Like, hey, what does this take to be a world's best? We know we're in the pandemic. There's different things like boxes we have to check, but there's also like we can't do this in a full blown race because they're all canceled right now. So we're working with them, and then we were also working with World Athletics with the goal being, let's get World Athletics to give the green light that this is actually just going to be a world record instead of world's best, which is a whole different conversation. But goal was get World Athletics on board so they can say this is a ratified world record. So we're doing all these things, and I don't know exactly how Camille came into the conversation, whether she's on one of these boards or governing bodies, or she was just being proactive and like, hey, she was just very involved in the conversation. Like, it can't be a world record if this, it can't be a world record if that. And like, it was literally down to the day before the race where it was like, well, it can't be a world record if there's, men in the race or if there's pacers. And it was just like on and on. And we're trying to make it sure everything's good. And it was just like one thing after another. So run the record. We feel like we've done all the things, did the drug testing so it would be World Athletics certified if that were the case. And yeah, we felt really good about it. Like we felt like we had done all the right things and talked with the right people to make sure it would be ratified, certified, whatever. And then even afterwards, there's just this email chain where it was like, still like, it can't be, it can't be, it can't be because, and she was just very critical of the process, which I get, I understand, but also at a certain point, it's like, you're just really digging here, and I don't think there's anything that's going to make that, like, we followed the rules.
Right.
So that was going on behind the scenes, and I think publicly she was very much like, hey, congrats, that's awesome. But then in the email thread, it was like, no, 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 no. So that was my experience. And I think we talked about it a little bit, but I defended myself once and like, hey, she's been saying these things and we're trying to do these things. We think it's going to be a world record, no problem. And eventually, I don't block a ton of people on social, but I just blocked her because it's like, there's nothing that's going to satisfy this conversation. So I don't need this stress. And it's
Right.
not like I don't like Camille or I think she's whatever. It's just like, I don't care. Like,
Mhm.
I've moved on. I ran the time. If it counts, it doesn't, whatever. Like, there's another thing to go do. So I'm done with this conversation, and that's that. So I don't know. I mean, like, did she change it? Did she wait? It wouldn't surprise me because of kind of her opinion of the record before we even made the attempt. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that's, if those are meaningful things for her, she can go and fight those battles.
It sounds like she changed your Wikipedia page. Well, we know she did, right? But I don't know what she changed it. It sounds like maybe it was about this 50K world record. The funny thing is, I doubt you noticed because who goes to Wikipedia anymore?
Nobody's on Wikipedia.
Okay, this is my thought. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Okay, go.
First of all, nobody cares about Wikipedia. We all know it's not real and that people can just write stuff. And so I have a lot of sadness that someone was so concerned with what Wikipedia says.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of sadness that someone would be like so worried about what it says about themselves that they're constantly changing it. And then so worried that someone else's might read more successful or something that they would change that. I just feel like that is so sad. Now, I've heard a lot of stories. Camille has always been nice to me. I just want to say that flat out. Like, I've been around her. She's always been very nice to me. I have since heard stories, they're all over the internet if you want to go find them, of people having very different experiences. I feel like yours was a different experience. Camille and I never competed against each other or anything or had any similar record or anything like that. So when I'm reading all this, I'm just feeling sad. I'm like, that's to be so concerned about what it says on this website is so like that you would care that much. It's just really sad. And some of the anger that I saw towards Camille, I felt like was overblown. Like, she changed a Wikipedia page. Is it cool? No. Is it
Right.
strange behavior? Yes. Should there be a consequence? Sure. But like she didn't dope, she didn't kill someone. She, I feel like the insecurity is showing, right? At the same time, like hearing this from you, and then I've heard other stories, I'm like, maybe this is a people are mad about something else. Not, I'm not saying you are, but people have had other experiences that have made them mad, and so this for them is their like finally they can be like, see, you know. Um,
Right.
but I feel sad for Camille. I feel like she just lost everything. She lost her reputation. She lost her contract. She lost potential future opportunities for what? Just to put on Wikipedia that she's the greatest just ultra runner of all time? To take
It,
down your 50K record? Like, I don't know.
I think that's the thing, and that's why I just didn't. I was like, I talked to Sarah, but I was like, I don't think you really need to put anything for me in there. Like, I'm not. I don't want to pile on her. Like, there's
Yeah,
no reason. Like, I hope that there's remorse. I don't
right.
know, but also there's like you said, there's just this crazy insecurity thing, which she needs to figure that out. And
Right.
this isn't helping. And me being like negative or critical or whatever, like that's not helping. Her sponsors dropping her, like that's not like it makes it even worse. And like I
Yeah.
actually was like, I'm like honestly, I hope she's okay. Like
Yes.
I hope she has support around her, one that can be like, hey, this is why this is wrong, two, this is how you can get better. Because it's just so odd to have your whole identity tied up into this thing on Wikipedia. Like, Camille, there's more out there. You're bigger than just whatever you do on the road. Like, just I think there needs to be perspective. And I think everyone kind of dumping on her doesn't give the right perspective. It's like, no, it was the biggest thing in the world.
Right.
So I hope she's okay, is my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not
No,
saying like, guys, it's like who
it
cares?
happens all the time.
Yeah,
No,
I'm like
it's odd.
that it's odd and it's unfortunate and there probably should be consequences for that kind of behavior, especially like it seemed very manipulative, right? Like there was an account that was blocked and then there was another account started. So it seems like this is a behavior pattern that's been going on for many, 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 many years. And that's a problem. But I also feel like, yeah, maybe it's just like studying psychology or being from Minnesota. I don't really know, but I'm just sort of like, there's a bigger, more important problem here, which is like, why would someone do that? And I am worried about her. I mean, I feel like she is so isolated. She is off all of her socials, but her husband said that he took the socials down. I don't know. I'm just worried. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is when your entire world and identity and self worth is like what it says on Wikipedia and how people talk about you and how write ups are written about you, and all of that's gone, like, then what? Right. So I guess I'm
Right.
just, yeah, I am worried. I am worried about her. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that she can realize that she's more than that,
Right.
and she should. She is. Like, dude, running's going to end for all of us one day.
Hmm.
And if that's the end of like everything, man, there's so much more out there that you could be doing and you should be doing. I mean, go to a baseball game right before New York. Who cares?
Yeah. Right. It did make me think a lot about how um social media and message boards and the things that people will say on that stuff that they wouldn't necessarily say to your face.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, we've both experienced that so much, right? Like someone wrote on a comment yesterday, "Hey, I DM'd you a picture, like you never even acknowledged it." And I'm like, "Hey, I don't take DMs because my DMs for years were filled with harassing comments. So I'm sorry that I missed that." And it is a different situation, but it's all sort of tied together. This being anonymous on the internet and being able to say what you want to say and how you want to say it and having no accountability, right? And it made me think about my own life and you and the stuff that people have written about us. And yeah, it's just so I guess what I was thinking was all the people like really coming down on her, maybe they're not wrong, but also let's think about our own lives. Like, have you ever written something mean about someone? Have you ever joined in on a message board? I mean, I know I have. I know I have back in the day. I would defend Adam and stuff, and I would do stuff. I was like, it's embarrassing,
Yeah, I think
but I
the
did.
rule, yeah, like as soon as you start to care that much to like respond, and I felt like this with some of the Boston comments that we got after the last episode, where it's like I was starting to respond to DMs, and like I had some really great conversations, and then there was some people that were just like, "You're a piece of shit," and I was like, and then I was like, you know what? Like, I need to turn it all down. And as soon as I get so worked up that I start to respond, like it's time to pause and set everything down. And I like if people found those old things and were like, hey, this is what you said under an anonymous handle, like, yeah, it would be incredibly embarrassing. Um, but you're also not anonymous on the internet. Like,
No.
just reality check,
Yeah.
everyone. You think you are, you're not.
Right.
There's threads that tie this together, and there's cues you have, and there's signals, and like you're not anonymous on the internet. So I think it was David Monty who was always like, you should write on the internet like as if it could end up on the front of the New York Times. And how would your grandma or your mom feel reading that
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
quote from you?
That's really good perspective. And even just like when you comment about even on Instagram or wherever where your name is tied to it, like you're talking to real people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was telling you before we got on this call that Colt came home from school and he was like kind of flustered. And he was like, Mom, some of my friends found out that you were like kind of famous and they were looking you up and then they looked up your net worth. And I'm like, wow, nosy much. But okay. And he was like, and then this article popped up that you're a fraud. And I'm like, no, there's no article that I'm a fraud. And he's like, yes. And they were all asking me about it and I didn't know what to say. And so anyway, I go, pull it up, please pull it up. And he's like, I think it was in Runner's World. And I go, that did not happen. I go,
Check out.
pull it up. So anyway, he pulls it up and it's a Let's Run thread. And they were calling me a fraud or whatever. And I just want people to think a little bit before they post stuff because now my son, who's in 8th grade, all of his buddies were like, dude, your mom's a fraud. Like she's a fraud. That's how she got famous. And I can't even remember what I was a fraud about. I think like what I got paid. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't need to defend me. Second of all, so I had to explain to him what it was, right?
Right.
What Let's Run is and what anonymous chat rooms are and how people can just say whatever they want. It isn't fact checked. It can be really hurtful. And it was really interesting because he's 14 and this is the first time we've ever had a conversation. I know Colt's Googled me before. I know he has, but it was interesting because he's never found anything like really negative before.
Right.
And so we had this whole conversation about like, you might be writing something that you think is funny that's not going to get tied back to you, but you never know who's going to read that down the line and who's it's going to hurt. Like this person wrote this, they don't know me, they've never met me, they don't know anything about my financial background or the type of money that I make or what I've done with. They don't know anything about me. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're making this big judgment and other people are piling on and now you and your friends read this and thought this was true, like, and now you're hurt and now you feel like you need to defend me to your friends. And it's just like, this is why this stuff is really dangerous. Why you really need to think about what you're writing because this person probably didn't even think I'd see it, let alone that you would see it and that you would feel then like you have to defend me. And this actually did happen years and years ago. I had a bodywork person that was over at my house working on me. And he was like, oh my God, did you see on Let's Run today? They're saying that you had an affair with Alberto and that's why Colt has darker skin than Adam. And we laughed about it. But that night when I was tucking Colt into bed, he was like crying. And he was like, is dad not my dad? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, honey, look in the mirror. You're exactly the same. Literally exactly the same.
That's funny.
But again, like just a stupid comment and a rumor that someone put out there, which this person shouldn't have mentioned it in my home anyway, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, like, think about how you're talking about other people. And I think, like we were talking earlier, we got some comments after the Boston thing. And we're at a point, I feel like where we can handle it. But those we are reading them. And like you said, you're answering back to people. And then finally you're like, this is consuming me. Like, This is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
all I did was listened and chime in here and there, and does it warrant I don't know. Just be careful what you're saying is my bigger message
Yeah, I
here.
mean, I think that's being thoughtful about the words you choose and use are is really important. And the funny part with a lot of this stuff is like, oh, it's 14-year-old boys in the basement. Like it's not, it's adults.
Right.
So grow up.
Right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
you're
know.
not a 14-year-old. My son didn't
That's
even know what it was, right?
right.
Yeah, and he's 14. It's grown people just attacking other people. So I wanna I don't know how I feel about this, so I wanna know if you have a strong opinion on it. Lululemon announced that they were parting ways with Camille. How did you feel about that? Did you feel like that was the right decision? I'm kinda putting you on the spot. We didn't talk
No,
about
that's
this
okay. Yeah, yeah.
beforehand.
I've thought about I don't love it, to be honest. I feel like their whole brand messaging is like we're understanding, we're inclusive, and like it just seems so knee jerk. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is from an outside perspective. Like, did they call her? Did they have a conversation? Did they confirm whether it was her husband? Was it her? Like, it just seems so quick. Like, oh, there's negative press, knee jerk. We have to get rid of her so that we can make sure everyone's okay with our brand still, or we're not in these articles anymore. Um, and like I said, I think there's some larger issues. That would have been great if they're like, hey, we're having a conversation with, and whatever, you're not going to do this publicly, but like have a conversation with her, talk about it, and then like figure out what the next step is. Is it getting her some help but parting ways, or, is it working through it? I don't public apology together. I don't know. But I get it. Brands are brands. Like the bottom line is the bottom line. Nothing personal, just business. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That was my initial take was like, you guys could have paused a little bit and maybe got a good message out of helping someone out. But I also understand just like not a problem.
Yeah.
Would you think?
I mean, at first I was like, wow, that's harsh and quick because I just thought about like other companies that like keep people on that are going through doping scandals and other things that are beating
Sure.
their spouses, like things that are like seem so much
Yeah, for
bigger
sure.
and they don't necessarily get cut. But I also, like you just said, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I'm a little disappointed that she doesn't just issue an apology.
Put a real apology
Like
out.
a real one. And like
Right.
be real and vulnerable and admit like I shouldn't have done this. And for me, I just kept saying it's so embarrassing. And I get that it's so embarrassing. And just like admit that, I feel
Yeah.
like people are really forgiving in general. And that's what I mean, listen, I don't know Camille really. I've only met her and been around her, I think at one event. But that would be my advice is just be real and apologize. And
It'll go a long way. I
yeah,
mean, I think people, yeah, we all goof up, and
yeah, no one's
you're right. Like,
perfect.
who hasn't put a message out there that they're like, I would like to take that back?
Oh God. Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think everyone could understand. Not completely, but like, made a mistake.
Right. Yeah.
But you gotta own it. You gotta wear it.
Well, thanks for talking about that. I know you didn't really necessarily want to, but so many people were like, "Why is Des involved in this?" I'm like, "She's not."
Like, yeah, I am like a if it's taking up too much mental energy, like the early conversations were, back in the 50s, I'm just like, you're done.
Yeah.
There's a Taylor Swift song. I forgot that you existed.
Mhm.
Wow, this was like, oh yeah, there's a Camille out there somewhere. Just moved on.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
moving on. All right.
do you want to talk about Chicago? Would you like to talk about the Chicago Marathon? Are you excited for it? Or do you want to wait and really get into that in the live?
Um, well, you're in charge today. What do you wanna do?
I don't know. I think I have the fields up, but I think we
Okay.
should do some homework here and then come back to it because they're
Okay.
really good. It's going to be some fast racing. There was some late ads. We're gonna have to wait until we get the weather report, which right now is looking hot, but it could come back together. It's too far out. So this will come out.
This will come out the Tuesday before. I will say I'm interested to see how Keira D'Amato does coming down from altitude now, and Emma Bates.
Betsy
you
Sign
know,
is still in the field, right?
yeah, she's still in. So I think the American race is shaping up to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
The men's
but
side as well.
yeah,
I think Panning, Brian Schrader, CJ Albertson will be fun to watch. I'm excited to see Annie Frisbee. She ran
yeah.
that monster half earlier.
Hmm.
And then I think Nell Rojas was a late scratch.
She's scratched now. Yeah.
Gabby
I think,
Ruker, Susanna Sullivan. Yeah, there's some good names. It'll be
yeah,
fun.
Gabby's going to be good. I think the Panning and Albertson storyline is interesting too. We haven't seen Panning race since the trials, right? Not a marathon. So
Yeah.
I
No,
think
he's
that'll
done some shorter
be
stuff.
really interesting. So we can dive
Yeah.
into it more in Chicago, but I think the American storylines are really going to be exciting.
Get excited for that. Download the TCS app. It should be out. Track your favorite runners. We'll give you all the details a little bit closer. And speaking of TCS, because they're a sponsor not for Chicago but for New York, we have some really exciting stuff coming up. Um, we've talked about the app a ton, and I sent them an apology. I was like, hey, I know I keep pitching ideas of what you're not doing, but you guys have been wonderful. They're like, hey, TCS is here to use technology to solve and create solutions. We love it. But yeah, let's move on from the app and talk about some more news that we're bringing to the New York City broadcast. Do you want to
Yes.
dig into it?
Yeah, let's dig into it. So I think it's exciting, right? Like I think we're going to get some more information through that broadcast than we normally get thanks
Yeah.
to TCS. So I mean, they sent a little thing describing it
So
how
here's what they told, here's the words they used, and then they said, hey, can you say this without saying this? And I think you guys are all smart, you'll be able to put this together. There's a plan to have enhance or they plan to enhance the aerial coverage of the race. Enhanced aerial coverage. Any guesses?
I feel like there's gonna be some Jones.
Those are Joan hands. Yes. So it sounds like they will have some drones on the race, which is great because you're going to get. I mean, you can move in between things that are going on in the race. Like we see, wow, just see the leaders, they broke away. What's happening? And you're going to be able to. Hopefully, they'll be able to kind of go in through the pack and show these sort of gaps. And then also, I think it'll be really great perspective of like the men started with the main group and like let's fly this thing back and show you how far ahead they are
Yeah.
already.
Yes.
And then it's like, wow, like you can sort of get a real perspective of the difference in what the pros are doing and what some really good people in wave one are doing, right?
What I think is cool too on that note is just I as a person who works in broadcasting, there's always a lot of complaints about like how come there's not a camera on the second pack or the third pack? And it's like cuz that costs money and we only have so much feed space, but this is a way to kind of solve that in a
Mm-hmm.
easier, simpler way and give us those aerial shots and give us that information that we don't normally get to see, right? Like they can only have so many cameras out on course. So these aerial shots like help tell that story and help solve that problem a little bit that a lot of people usually have an issue with.
Yes, I hope that's how it goes off. It's always like first year, like
Mhm.
never know. So I don't want to put the bar too high, but the fact that one, you're going to have them out there and they're working on it and again, solving for a problem is awesome. Two, New York's just beautiful, like the course, the bridges. So even if it's not of the runners, which knock on wood, it is, but you'll get some cool shots of that course. And I think people will be like, oh, I need to do that. That looks
Yeah.
amazing. Um, and also the inside baseball stats, more stats being laid over and integrated into the broadcast. That'll be really cool. They have digital twin technology. They're doing a digital twin of my heart, which is super cool, but they have one of the course as well. So they'll use the digital twin will replicate the professional race side by side with the live coverage to better cover major moves. So you'll have that sort of visual on the course as well, and compare where the leaders are in comparison to the chase pack as
Which
well as
is
course and
awesome
world records. Yeah.
because
So
that's another
perspective.
yeah, and that's another criticism is like you're dumbing down the broadcast. And it's like, well, we're trying to bring in all these new viewers, but to have that little inside baseball for the people who are hardcore and into it, they'll understand what all those stats mean. Maybe like a person who just turned on the TV won't get that, but they'll also be getting like great coverage and shots of everything. So I think it's just such a great way to make the broadcast better and please everyone, right? The hardcore fans and the people who just happen to turn it on and they're like, wow, these people are crazy. They're running so fast through the streets of New York.
We're gonna make everyone happy.
I know. I love all these quotes about like, you can't make everyone happy. Not everyone's going to like you. Let it go because like I'm a people pleaser. But I feel like TCS is being a
She's like,
really
we
good
got
people
this.
pleaser. Yeah.
We got this. Move over. Technology.
We got it. We got it. Yeah.
So that's exciting. I think that's really cool. I'm excited that we got to talk about that.
Yeah. And we can't wait to see your digital twin. That'll be awesome.
Oh yeah, it's I was nervous. They did like an MRI, and I was like, but what if it's weird? Like, what if my heart looks weird? Like, no one knows like what a good heart looks like versus yeah. But I
Yeah.
actually just got off a call with them, and they gave me like all this analysis because I've been sending data like heart rate stuff and like ECG type stuff from my training runs, and they like are compiling it week by week so they can like show how it's impacting the heart. It's cool. It's really an
That's
interesting
really
project.
cool.
Yeah. So digital twin of the course, digital twin of hearts. That's the future. The future is digital twins.
Love it. Okay.
That's what I'm told. That's what I'm told.
Love it. Thank you, TCS.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about wow, we're just crushing this time. Do you want
I
to talk
know.
about some of the track meets? Like track seems like so last year, but we
It
had
does.
Athlos come up and it looked amazing. I think we should just touch on it.
Yeah, so Athlos was a couple weeks ago. Well, by the time this comes out, I was on a Thursday night, all female track meet, and it was bankrolled by Serena Williams' husband, whose name is Alexi.
Serena Williams' husband.
I'm like the opposite. I'm doing the sexism thing, but the opposite way. Um,
I had a
yeah.
long
Anyway,
yeah.
but it's a new concept. Just I think there were only 8 people per event. Um,
Six or eight, yeah.
6 to 8 people per event. And it was held in New York City. Huge pre and post game show. Then the races, there was 100, 200, 800 mile. What am I forgetting? Was there a 400? There wasn't?
I think there was.
I
I
think
don't
there was
know.
too. It was limited events, no field, just track racing. And like I said, the 1500 was the longest. And it seemed like everyone that was there loved it. Thought it was so fun, a different spin. A lot of celebrities that have nothing to do with track and field were there. A lot of hype around it. Um, and so it was just like a new concept. And what the positives for me are new concept that got pulled off, right?
Mhm.
It actually happened. A lot of people talk about stuff and then when push comes to shove, it doesn't actually happen. Um, everyone that ran it loved it. You know, everyone that was participated was super pumped to be there. People that did well got paid well. I think Brittany Brown won $85,000. That's a good day at the
Yeah.
track. Yeah. Um, and so, yeah, a lot of like hype and vibe around it. I think some of the things that were not criticized, but questioned were like, hey, everyone was talking about the pre and post race party, not so much about the actual racing. I think it's tough. The athletes looked tired to me.
Mhm.
They look like, yeah, this is 2 weeks after our season ended. And I don't think I would love to see this meet happen while the athletes are still in the middle of their
Right.
season. Scheduling, I know that'll be difficult and I know it's the first year. But if they want my feedback, I think like it would have I mean the athletes they look tired cuz they are.
Right.
You know? It was the end of September. They're exhausted. They
If
still
you're
showed
not
up.
a Trek fan, do you notice that or are you just like, "Oh, that was a good race?" Like if you're
Oh,
new
probably you
person,
don't know. Yeah, probably you don't know.
yeah. I wonder how many like new people were brought in though. You know what I mean? Like is it just the diehards who are like, "Oh, more track." And then they're like, "Oh, they're tired." These times sort of meh.
I mean, based on who they had like showing up and talking about the meet. And it seemed like a lot of people that were not track people at all, that have nothing to do with track and field. Are they going to stick around and start loving the sport and follow it hardcore? I don't know. But I definitely want to applaud them for doing something new and doing it well. And,
Yeah.
is it going to save track and field? I don't know. I mean, there were no field events, so it's definitely not going to save field, but it put more eyeballs on it. I guess we'll just have to see if it brings more people in long term, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the question mark with all these new leagues. And the interest in itself is great. Like people are excited about track and field. They see it as a potentially valuable thing to invest in and build, which is great. I think the fact that you have this meet Athlos and then you have Michael Johnson and they're like getting kind of riled up too. There's like a little bit of controversy. They're like, my league's better. No, my league's better. I did this first. Like it's it's exciting and I think that'll carry it for a while, but eventually the product on the track has to be interesting. So
I
that's,
was hoping that it was going to
that's
be
the big
sold out.
question.
I was hoping that the whole stadium was going to be packed out. And I know that's so hard to do. I know it's so hard to do. It was packed out on that home stretch. I was really hoping that when I saw the clips, it was going to be like packed out the entire stadium. I mean, Sonia Richards Ross and Paul Swangard were on the call. They said it was like rocking, it was fun, that it had some challenges that a first meet has. Like they weren't supposed to be the in stadium announcers.
I
And
was
then,
wondering about
yeah.
that.
And then something happened. And so then they were like calling for the broadcast, but also it was being broadcast live in the stadium. So
Hmm.
then they had to kind of change the way they were calling stuff because obviously what you
Yeah.
call in stadiums is very different than a broadcast. You can't be as conversational, when you're calling in stadium. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It seemed like it was cool. Everyone that ran it was like, I loved it. I wish more track meets were like this. Um, I just was like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like always like, yeah, I just wanted it to be packed out. And then I thought, I mean, they put a lot of money into that. They had a lot of great stars there. And then I'm imagining Grand Slam, which obviously occurs over more than one day, many and 4 different competitions. Like, will they be able to pack it out as well? I mean, that's the dream, right? Is that you turn on TV and it's like a packed out stadium, a full house all
Right.
the time. And then people are like, wow, the track matters. That look how cool that is instead of,
No one's there.
pockets. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I thought it was funny. There was an athlete afterwards who was like, this would crush in Europe. Like,
Yeah.
like, of course, like
Yeah.
Europeans, they sell out their meats. Like that's pretty common. I think it's funny hearing the athlete's perspective about how they were treated and like
Hmm.
the hotels and the arrival and like the gifts. And I was like, oh, that's like road racing. It's like, oh, they're being treated like an athlete, at a big road race, which is cool. I think that's great. But it is like, that's the difference of like, you have a 50,000 person marathon and they help fund that a little bit.
Right.
So where does that money come from? But yeah, that should, be in track as well. I thought there was a pretty obvious false start in one of the races. Gotta call that back. Like track
Yeah.
at the core has to like the main thing can't get watered down just because you're like, yeah, but this is bad for TV or the
Yeah.
production. Like you still have to keep the main thing the main thing. So that, I mean, and that's like it shouldn't be a growing pains thing. That should just always be
You should never
how
not
it's
call back
right.
a false start.
Right. So
I
that
mean,
that bugged me a
yeah.
little bit. And then ironically, this is kind of funny because big gripes in track and fields like there's so many commercials, too many commercials. There was a lot of space between events from like, okay, it's too many replays. Like this is too much filler. Like I want more track action. So I felt myself kind of losing attention here and there where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do something in the other room and then come back if there's when I hear the gun go off or something.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
what, when I talked to Paul about it, he's like, that would have been the perfect opportunity to go down to the long jump, go down to the triple jump, go to the high jump. Like those events wouldn't have been that hard to put like in those in betweens, have them then doing their jumps just to like
mhm,
carry that space a little bit. I do think that those are growing pain type things,
for
like you're
sure.
like, oh, we have all these awesome athletes here. It's going to be great. But the downtime, you feel it because it's all this excitement. And then it's like, "Meh, meh, meh." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so figuring that out and how to keep it rolling and keep that hype going, it's important. And I think hopefully they'll figure that out moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, kudos for getting it kickstarted, and I thought it seemed like it was really well received. The athletes seemed happy. The response from most folks who tuned in, they seemed like they enjoyed themselves. So,
Okay, wait,
um,
you sent me this tweet yesterday.
yeah,
Alexis
yeah.
Ohanahan.
Ooh,
I
okay.
can't say his name. I actually feel bad. Serena Williams' husband who funded this. You sent me this tweet yesterday. He called out Michael Johnson for being at the Athlos meet. Um, but then he said it's disappointing you're requiring these women to get permission from you and Bill Ackerman, actually, Ackman, in order to compete in other leagues. It's not very athlete friendly. So, do you have any thoughts on that? So, apparently, these women who have signed on to Grand Slam track had to get permission to be able to run the Athlos meet.
I don't. I mean, I would want to know if that's true or not. I would like to see the contract. What does the language sound like? I'm sure everything's negotiable, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you could probably have that taken out if you want. Um, I think it's funny. I think it's funny that they're like kind of having their little beef online. Um, I think the wording of it was really funny where he was like, "Thanks for joining the party after me." And then if you
Right,
kind of scroll
right.
through there, he's like, "Yeah, right when we announced our Athlos, Michael Johnson came out with his like 2 days later. Way to follow my lead, bro." Um,
Yeah.
so that stuff's sort of funny. I think egos could crush this thing too.
Mm,
I think there's some really big egos that they're like, I don't know, just announce your thing and then you're not the show. Like Michael Johnson, you're not the show.
right.
Serena Williams' husband, you're not the show. Clearly.
Alexis.
It's the people on the track, like make them the show, like lift them up. Like you announce it, great. Now they're now shadows make them the show. Um, and if those conversations were about lifting athletes up, which I get to a degree, he's saying like you're holding the athletes back. Um, that's even better. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of big egos. I think the other thing too that was kind of funny to me is that it seems like a lot of the chatter around Michael Johnson's league, and this I don't think is necessarily from him, but like he'll release something on the tails of Diamond League, increases their prize money, and then he releases something. It's like ours is actually whatever, and people go, yeah, fuck the Diamond League or whatever. Like it's really everyone's kind of punching at each other. So I
Hmm.
did think it was kind of funny that he kind of got a shot from somebody else, like the Diamond League sitting in the corner. I mean, if Laura Green did a skit on the leagues, I would laugh. I
Yeah,
thought
Laura
her
Green
skit
do
the other
that.
day, step in there, fill it out, because I think each league has its personality, and um,
And each league has its purpose. Like
yeah.
I actually don't like them dumping on each other. Like Athlos is a place for women to be showcased and highlighted, whether you like that or not. That's what it is. It gives them an opportunity to make some money, be showlighted, be the stars of the show, not be distracted by the men. Right? It's all about the women. Grand Slam track. I have to learn how to say that by next year. It is supposedly head-to-head battles that we get to see on a regular basis that we can count on, that we know they're going to be there. But Diamond League gives the most opportunity. Diamond League is the only one that has field events. Diamond League is the only one that has big full fields, right? Like Grand Slam is capped off at 8, I believe. Athlos was 6 to 8. So Diamond League is the one that has like 12, 15 people in event, like gives the most opportunity and has the most competitions, 14 competitions running throughout this entire season. So it gives the most opportunity. So yeah, maybe at this one track meet, it's not paying as much as Grand Slam track, but it has more opportunity over and over for more athletes. I think all of them are important, and it's going to, all of them have value. And it will be interesting to see if they can all learn to coexist, or if they, like you said, egos get in the way and they end up killing each other off, or just what's going to happen. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting next year for sure.
Yeah, I hope that they don't sort of cannibalize each other. That's the hope. And I think if you're an athlete and you're signed on to one league and you're maybe interested in promoting that league by taking down another, just be very, very careful. There's no reason to burn any bridge, like
Right.
these things, they pop up and they go away quickly. I don't want that for anybody, but don't burn any bridges because you think that you're going to be locked into this thing forever.
Yeah.
Also, Wanda has a ton of money.
Hmm.
Like they own the Diamond League and they could be like, you know what? We don't like competition.
Right.
Like you just don't know who you're going to be working for tomorrow and who's going to own what. So it's better to just say what's great about the league you're in or the people you're working with, but you don't have to say something negative about any other entity in order to
Right.
lift your
To
thing
lift the
up.
one you're doing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that's
Take
my
note,
advice to
athletes.
athletes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are having a really long show, so we should crack a Ketone-IQ
Okay, let's do it.
to help us get through this top five. I'm gonna go run. I need a little bit of energy because I haven't had food in a while. So
Don't tell people that.
I'm gonna have a small snack and then I'm gonna have a real meal after. It's just been a long morning. I'm
Okay.
a poster child for what not to do, but I do love the energy that ketones give me. I think it's just this brain boost. It makes me feel a little bit more like, you ever get brain fog? Like,
All the time.
yeah, like that's like brain fog, um, kryptonite. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
it
just, it
just
helps.
blast it out.
I like that. I like the
Shh.
caffeine one as well. And so I've been using that in my New York training. I think that
Oh,
like at mile 20, like when you feel like you might be hitting the wall, sometimes it's just a brain fog thing. So I
okay,
think
so
in
tell me,
training,
this is like a little nerd thing. How are you
yeah.
gonna open them ahead of time? Peel the wrapper off ahead of time so you're not having to do it while you're running?
So these things are crazy. Yeah, I do usually like crack it and then, but I keep it sealed because I don't trust anyone. Like people were posting photos of my bottles before the trials, and I was like,
Yeah,
like what
ew.
are we doing? I was very upset, and like the lady posted on Instagram, like I don't know, I just got yelled at for something, and I'm like, sorry, but
You
don't,
can't do that.
yeah, yeah. But so these are crazy hard to use, and they're hard to sip while you're running fast. So Ketone came out with these. Oh, hey, fired up back there. These pouches, which I'll use the pouch, and it's just like a gel, but liquid pouch. So I'll use that instead.
So I have a little you can hear my dog going crazy. I'm so
That's okay.
sorry. Hold on,
No.
I'm pausing for a second.
Okay.
Okay,
That's okay.
here's my tip for you,
Okay.
which I'm sure you already know. You duct tape it to your water bottle right at the top. Yep. And then when you just go like that and it opens. And I used to do that and it works really well. So anybody else, if you ever are in a race where you have a water bottle and you need a gel or a Ketone-IQ, just put the duct tape on the top of it. And when you go to rip, it just rips right off and opens for you.
I don't have an agent anymore. They used to do my bottles for me with this stuff. Like tape them on. But that's a pro tip for sure. I will do that.
I bet Ryan will do it. Adam used to do my bottles for me.
Really?
Ryan's a nice
Yeah.
guy. I feel like you could
You
get him to
probably
do that.
will. But I could also just do it and not be a lazy piece of shit. All right. Well,
Okay.
see, Ketone-IQ, great for on the course, great for training. Practice with them first because they do have a crazy taste.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, eh. But some news coming up about that.
Yeah. But
Stay
I don't think we can
tuned.
announce that yet. Yeah,
No,
no.
we cannot. Stay tuned.
Okay.
You'll
Stay
have to come
tuned.
back for another episode. But for now, let's go into our top five.
Okay, you go first. I didn't really think this through.
Okay. I didn't really either. Shoot. Okay. All right. I wrote down a quote
Okay.
that I really liked, and I don't know if this will irritate people or not, but I liked it. I wrote it enough, so I wrote it down in my top five section of my notes, and we can talk about it. The ultimate goal is getting paid to be yourself. Just
I
like
love
in
that.
general, and I think it was like a lot of different things about people like trying to be relevant, or like the Camille like thing where she's doing the Wikipedia. Like, really, the goal is just to be yourself and try to create value in that.
That's
So I
great.
liked that. That's my quote is for the top five.
I love that. Inspiring quote. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, so many life lessons and all this stuff today. I'm not really good for this, but I will say,
Mm.
Sunday we had Boulderthon in Boulder.
Oh yeah, that
And
looks
this
great.
meet, it just keeps growing. They had a 5K and a 10K this year, which was really cool. They had prize mo great prize money and then big prize money for course records. They were missed or, Colorado state records. They were missed, but I have a feeling they will go down next year. I thought it's grown. It's like doubled in size every year. So there was 10,000 participants and it was just a cool morning in Boulder. Like a lot of my friends were running the half marathon and I got to stay and cheer them in. And it was fun. And Um, it's cool to, I grew up with Grandma's Marathon with an event that everyone loves. And in Boulder, like everyone's training for their own thing. Like everyone's an Ironman triathlete or this or that or whatever. But it was cool to see the community come together. I mean, obviously we have Boulder, but come together for something fun. So it was good.
I love that. Did you guys get good weather? Did you already answer that? I was looking at the text. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was good weather. It definitely got warm for the marathoners, but it was really good weather for the half people, 5K, 10K people. Really good weather. But I think as the day went on, it definitely got a little warm for the marathoners. But it's tough to have a marathon in the fall in Colorado. It's just
Any marathon in Colorado is tough. There's like a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
reasons for
yeah,
this. um,
yeah.
okay, well, I'm gonna just I do this seasonally, but I think that fall in
Mm.
general is in the top five. We're getting pumpkin spices back. We have the
Are you a
apple.
pumpkin spice person?
No, but
Okay.
it's out there. People love it. There's apple crisp cider stuff going on. There's apple picking. I read this article years ago in the New Yorker. It was about apples and the sweet tango apple in particular. It was like a really long, extensive article about apples and the Honey Crisp and how it evolved, and then sweet tango. And it comes up once a year in the fall. I get to act like I'm an apple expert. And I'm like, oh no, the cells of the sweet tango are larger, so you get that crack. You should look it up. Just look up apple sweet
Apple
tango
nerd.
New Yorker, and it's a really good article. And then you too can be an apple expert. But fall in general is great. I got back from my workout yesterday, and I like stopped at the top of the hill, because you get Lake Michigan, and then these fall colors, and then the road, and you just cannot beat training for a fall marathon. So I'm just gonna go with fall.
I'm gonna just piggyback on that fall too.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say cross country because I think
Ooh,
that high
yeah.
school and collegiate cross country are like the best sports on the planet. And Adam's been coaching and it's been so fun to watch that. And obviously Colt ran his middle school season. Now he's gonna start a club season tomorrow. And I just think about my high school and college experience. I got to call Nutty Comb Invitational last Friday with Paul Swangard.
Nice.
So see some collegiate cross country. And I have to say, like, I'm always like, I love fall, mostly because it reminds me of
Sweet
when I
tangos.
fell in love, sweet tango, yes, but also how I fell in love with running, which was through cross country. And I love the cool mornings. I love the cool evenings. I love the leaves. Now, I know we're going to get some comments of like, wish it was cold in the morning here in Florida. It's still da da da, or
For
where
sure.
Chris lives. I get that. And I understand that as a country, we pretend that doesn't exist. We just go straight to fall and we put on our plaid and we drink our pumpkin spice, and you guys are still hot and sweltering. But where I've always lived, there is a fall, and I love it so much. And just cross country. I think it's such a great sport, and it's just impacted my life huge. And so I love this time of year. I love seeing everybody out practicing and racing. It's cool.
That's a good one. Cross country is great. All right. I feel like we've done this a few times, but I'm just gonna go back to it because I think after the Boston episode, you and I were both like, let's just stop podcasting. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. There's too much hate. There's too, like, I'm mad, they're mad, no one's happy, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like we tackled a really hard topic that didn't have answers. And I want to pat us on the back, but also the fans who engaged, whether it was in a crazy way or in a really productive way. And we had just a lot of really hard conversations. I think the art of conversation and not just yelling has kind of been lost. And I
Yeah.
feel like we had a cool like conversation, and some of us, sometimes we yelled and then we got brought back down and it was fine. But to everyone who participated in that conversation, you're in our top five. Thank you. And we're gonna let it all go now until
Let
we
it
have another
go.
another
Let it
hard
go.
conversation come up, because I think that's what we can do to get better at it, is just keep
Yeah.
having conversations that are tricky, and then learn to listen and learn that you don't have to convince everyone to be on your side. Like, I used get it in air quotes, and someone was like, that is so rude. And I was like, well, it's a big term. Like, I can understand, I can comprehend, I can empathize, I can sympathize, like all these different, I can get it, but that doesn't mean I've been persuaded. And so like there's so many more words we can be using, and like dialogue's good. And it doesn't mean at the end of the day that we're going to say, Chris, you're wrong. And that's Kara's right. And this is the winner of the fight. Like, that's not what
Right.
it is. It's just a
Right.
conversation. So
Yeah.
I say bravo to conversations and to Ketone-IQ for giving us the mental energy to get through them. You can get a discount code. We're going to drop it in the show notes if you want mental clarity. So when you are about to lose your shit in a conversation, you take your ketone and you really just go, is it worth it? Let me get some mental clarity here. Multi-purpose Ketone-IQ.
Yes. And
Check out
thanks.
the show notes.
Check out the show notes, get some. And thanks for everyone who's very upset with us last week for sticking with us.
If
But
you are, maybe you're
if you
gone.
are, and maybe you're gone, and that's
Yeah,
fine too.
that's
But
okay.
I do want to echo that. Like, it's good to have difficult conversations. And I agree that has been lost. It's like, you suck, you're wrong. And now you're just an idiot and we can't talk anymore about that topic or whatever. And I'm sure we'll have more conversations like that in the future. And we were hesitant to do it because we knew people would be passionate about it. I think we were both caught off guard by just how passionate people were. And that's good. We all learn. And so, yeah, but I really appreciate that as a top 5 because I do think the art of just having a conversation and also living with disagreement has been lost.
Big
But it's
facts.
okay. You can still be friends. You can still respect each other. Not everybody, even your best friend, you guys don't agree on everything. Believe
Which
it
is
or not.
great. It's
Which
great
is
timing.
how,
It's election season. Everyone's going to disagree with someone. People are going to Thanksgiving dinners. Just get comfortable with, it's okay to not agree on everything.
yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
And Chris, please make sure my address doesn't show up in the YouTube.
Edit that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. See y'all next time.